Welcome to the deep dive. If you need a shortcut to understanding how content creation is, well, about to be fundamentally reshaped by artificial intelligence, you've landed in the right spot. Today, we are diving into a truly seismic shift, the rapid convergence of generative AI and major media platforms. Specifically, we're looking at Google's state-of-the-art VO3 model and that massive, ambitious suite of creative tools announced recently at Made on YouTube 2025. Our mission today is kind of twofold. First, we really need to unpack the core technical capabilities of VO3, like what makes this version so much more powerful than what came before. And we need to look at how YouTube is deploying a high-speed, mobile-optimized version that's VO3 fast to, well, supercharge the creation of shorts. Second, and this is critical, we have to examine the reaction from the creator community. Balancing the incredible potential for scaling production against that very real, very loud risk of flooding the internet with what critics are calling AI slop.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here, I think, is that the conversation moves immediately beyond just, generating an 8-second video clip. If you look at the source material, Google and YouTube are building tools that cover pretty much every single phase of a creator's fundamental workflow. I mean, we are talking about transforming production from the initial idea, the concepting, right through to the final edits, post-production, realistic dubbing for global reach, even integrating new monetization pipelines. The platform is explicitly positioning itself not just as a host for content, right? But as this indispensable creative partner that lives in your camera roll and your editing suite.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We have to start with the source engine, the beast that makes all of this possible, VO3. This is Google's flagship model for video generation. You hear the phrase state-of-the-art thrown around a lot, but what are the concrete, measurable advancements in VO3 that truly set it apart from previous versions, like, say, VO2?
Right, and the jump isn't just incremental, it feels pretty exponential. It's specifically focusing on 3 critical areas: fidelity, duration, and crucially integrated sound. So VO3 generates high-fidelity video. It supports 720p natively, which is honestly perfectly viable for most online uses. But it also offers 1080p resolution. Now, that high resolution is currently restricted to the ubiquitous 16:9 aspect ratio, but it definitely shows the model's capability. And the standard output length is 8 seconds, and it's delivered at a professional film standard 24 frames per second, or 24 fps. The 24 fps is key. It's what gives it that smooth cinematic feel, avoiding that kind of jerky, low frame rate look we saw with early generative models.
Yeah, I remember those early models, even that were considered pretty advanced. They always had that same awkward caveat: video only, sound sold separately, which meant hours, literally hours of manual work trying to find and then perfectly sync up a soundtrack afterwards.
Exactly. And that difficulty is precisely the crucial advancement here. It saves untold hours of that painful post-production syncing. Unlike VO2, which was silent only, VO3 and its rapid variant, VO3 Fast, natively generates synchronized audio. And this isn't just like a separate sound layer slapped on top. It includes realistic sound effects, ambient noise that actually matches the visual environment, think rustling leaves or city traffic, and even synchronized dialogue. This elevates the realism of the output significantly, making the clip immediately usable without heavy post-production cleanup. It's really the difference between a silent, slightly uncanny sequence and a scene that feels immediately cinematic and ready to drop into a timeline.
Yeah. That integrated synchronization. Yeah, that's a total game changer. So, okay, on the input side, how flexible is the model? Are we just restricted to typing a text prompt and hitting generate, or can we feed it other elements?
No, it's built for versatility. It supports both the standard text-to-video prompting we're kind of familiar with and the increasingly powerful image-to-video modality. And that second option, image-to-video, that's what allows for real creative control. Imagine you've used, say, Imagen 4.0 to generate a stunning, high-definition still image of, I don't know, a cyberpunk city at dusk. You can use that exact image as the initial frame for the 8-second video. This means the movement sequence is guaranteed to start from a specific, high-quality visual, ensuring a much more natural, intentional progression of movement, rather than the AI just kind of guessing a motion sequence from an abstract text concept.
Okay, this is where we get into the technical workflow, right? The stuff developers and power users really need to understand. Video generation, as you pointed out, is incredibly computationally intensive. Our sources emphasize this isn't an instant process like generating text or even a static image. Can you walk us through the actual technical process, that request-response methodology?
Absolutely, yeah, because generating these complex synchronized video frames is a demanding asynchronous operation. The system can't just send you the finished file immediately, right?
Yeah.
When a user sends a request to the API, it starts a process called a long-running job. The server immediately returns an operation object, which is basically just a ticket number.
Mm.
The user is then required to poll the status of that object, meaning they send subsequent requests, checking the status every, say, 10 seconds, until the done status is reported as true.
Polling every 10 seconds, that really emphasizes that this is some heavy machinery working behind the scenes. And what's the actual request latency we should expect? Like best case, worst case?
Yeah, the source material is very specific here. The minimum latency, even under ideal conditions, is around 11 seconds. Now, that might sound slow compared to, like, Google search query, but in the realm of complex diffusion models creating 24 VPs, synchronized 1080p video, 11 seconds is incredibly fast. However, during high-demand periods or peak hours, that processing time can stretch. It can go up to as long as 6 minutes. This is why that asynchronous polling loop is absolutely essential to manage expectations and ensure the workflow doesn't just stall. You kick off the heavy processing, get your ticket, and just wait for the signal that the job's finished.
That context is crucial. 11 seconds for that quality of output really is a benchmark achievement. Okay, let's zoom in on control now. Once you have this powerful engine, the challenge shifts to steering the output, right? For anyone trying to master this tech, controlling the output is everything. What parameters give us that kind of cinematic control over VO3?
Okay, so we have several crucial parameters that mirror what a human director or cinematographer would control. The required input is, of course, the prompt. And as we discussed, this now supports those audio cues, which is huge. But just as critical for refinement is the negative prompt. This is where you describe what you explicitly do not want the AI to include. It's essential for filtering out common generative errors, or, what we're calling slop.
Ah, okay. So the negative prompt is basically the AI equivalent of saying, yes, but I definitely don't want it.
Precisely. For example, if you prompt for a hyper-realistic shot of a futuristic vehicle, you might use a negative prompt like cartoon, drawing, low-quality, blurred background, choppy motion. It helps prune the creative possibilities. Beyond that, we have the technical parameters. We control resolution. 720p is default, 1080p for 16.9 only. And critically for YouTube, the aspect ratio. The default is 16.9 for traditional video, but 9.16 is readily available, which is vital for that mobile-first shorts environment.
Let's get a bit of a deep dive into the art of prompting for video then. Text-to-image prompting has been around for a while now, but video prompting, especially with integrated audio and motion, that changes the game entirely, doesn't it? Our sources recommend utilizing 7 specific elements to achieve truly professional cinematic output. What are they, and how do they kind of merge the roles of writer and director?
Right, this comprehensive framework is designed to provide the model with all the information needed to generate a professional shot, not just a vague idea. They essentially require you to script the look, sound, and movement. Let's break them down. 1. Subject and action. This is the core content, defining exactly what is happening. Think. A flock of exotic birds taking flight, or melting icicles and the water drips. Pretty straightforward. 2. Style. Setting the aesthetic direction is vital. Sci-fi, horror film, film noir, 3D cartoon-style render, hyper-realistic, that kind of thing. 3. Camera positioning motion. This dictates how the audience views the scene, like aerial view, dolly shot that smoothly tracks forward, tracking drone view, or a slow pan right. 4. Composition. How the shot is framed is the subject filling the frame. Examples: wide shot, close-up on the subject's face, 2-shot, basic film language. 5. Focus on these effects, adding visual depth and atmosphere. Think shallow focus to blur the background, or macro lens for extreme detail. 6. Ambiance. Controlling the lighting and mood. So, cool blue tones, warm golden hour sunlight, dark and shadowy. And finally, 7. Context setting. Providing the background or environment where the action happens, like on a gritty brick wall, on a frozen rock wall in the Antarctic, a bustling 1950s diner.
Wow. Okay, so it's essentially merging the director's lens with the writer's pen. You're scripting the camera move, the lighting design, the soundscape, everything simultaneously. And the audio element is baked right into that core prompt. Can you give us a powerful, specific example of how someone would prompt for dialogue and sound effects? That seems really tricky to get right.
Yeah, it requires specificity. The source gives a great example of how to build suspense into a scene. Imagine you want a dramatic reveal. Your visual prompt might be something like a close-up of 2 people staring intently at a cryptic drawing on a stone wall, torchlight flickering across their faces. Okay, visual set. Then the audio component specifies the synchronized sound. A man murmurs, "This must be the key. That's the secret code." The woman looks at him and whispering excitedly, "What did you find?" Notice that critical detail. The dialogue is placed in quotation marks. That tells the model exactly what to say, and importantly, the emotion whispering excitedly. For ambient noise, you explicitly describe it, perhaps adding, "A faint, eerie, high-pitched hum resonates in the background." VO3 then captures the nuance of these cues, synchronizing the sound effects, the dialogue, and even the mouth movements to match the visual description, which, yeah, would have been impossibly difficult just a few years ago.
That level of synchronization is really impressive, but it does raise the question of trust, doesn't it? Does this synchronized audio eliminate the dreaded uncanny valley of sound? Or does it just maybe shift the problem to dialogue authenticity? Can you tell it's AI speaking?
That's the critical ongoing debate, isn't it?
Yeah.
The fidelity is so high now that the human ear often can't detect a flaw in the ambient sound or basic effects, like a door closing, wind. It sounds real. But the uncanny valley effect often creeps in with specific dialogue. The cadence, maybe the regional accent isn't quite right, the emotional nuance feels a bit off. Prompting the model to whisper excitedly definitely helps, but a human ear can still often detect that it wasn't a genuine human emotional response. I suspect the best creators will use VO3 heavily for ambient scenes, for sound effects, background noise, but they might still rely on human voice actors or their own recordings for the most emotionally resonant dialogue, just to maintain that absolute authenticity.
Okay, that makes sense. Before we move on to the YouTube integration, we absolutely must pivot to the critical counterpoint, the guardrails. What safety and legal limitations has Google implemented to manage this immense creative power?
Right, safety is paramount here, and transparency seems to be a technical requirement now. All videos generated by VO are watermarked using SynthEye, and we should clarify what that is. SynthEye is Google's permanent, basically invisible watermark. It's embedded deep into the metadata and even the pixel data of the video file itself. This ensures it can always be identified as AI-generated content, even if it's like cropped or heavily compressed. They also implement safety filters, memorization checking, which is important to avoid generating copyrighted or private data, and robust bias mitigation techniques.
And are there any notable regional limitations creators or developers need to be aware of, especially concerning generating human likenesses or people? This feels like a complex nuance that often gets rushed in these discussions.
It is complex, and it definitely reflects the tension between what the tech can do and regulatory caution. Yes, there are specific regional restrictions for the person generation parameter in certain key locations, notably the EU, the UK, Switzerland, and the MENA regions, Middle East, and North Africa. And the distinction is vital. In those regions, for text-to-video generation, VO3 only allows allow all. This means you can generate generic human figures, but the system is tightly controlled to prevent the creation of photorealistic likenesses or deepfakes of real people just from a text prompt. However, if you use the image-to-video feature, meaning you are starting with an existing image, potentially of a person, the restriction changes to allow adult.
Okay, hang on. What exactly does allow adult mean in this context? Because that sounds potentially problematic.
Right, it's a bit confusingly named. It does not mean NSFW content. In this technical specification, it refers to allowing the generation of adult-looking figures, but specifically non-photorealistic adult figures. This distinction is likely made because starting with an existing image, even a generative one, has a higher potential risk of being mistaken for, or maybe manipulated into, a deepfake likeness of a real individual. So, to maintain compliance and reduce risk in these sensitive regions, Google limits image-to-video generation to figures that are clearly stylized or abstract, maintaining a necessary buffer of safety and non-photorealism.
Ah, I see. That distinction generating people from scratch versus animating an existing image, that really highlights the regulatory complexities at play. Makes sense. Also, a quick practical note on data retention.
Yes, critical operational detail. Generated videos are only stored on the server for 2 days. If you don't download it within that 48-hour window, the system deletes it. You have to save your assets quickly. No lingering.
Got it. Okay, so now let's take this powerful engine, VO3, and drop it into the world's largest video platform, YouTube. YouTube's short-form ecosystem, Shorts, seems to be the primary target here. They clearly want to make AI integrations seamless and, importantly, mobile first.
Seamless is absolutely the goal.
Yeah.
This is where the optimized, tailored model VO3 Fast comes into play. This is the version designed specifically for speed, for rapid iteration, and for the mobile environment.
Tell us about VO3 Fast then. Why run a slightly different optimized model? Why not just use the main VO3?
It's all about that trade-off, right? The optimal balance between quality and speed, specifically for a mobile creator. VO3 Fast generates 480p video clips. That's a slightly lower resolution than the full 720p or 1080p from the main VO3. But here's the crucial justification. 480p on a typical mobile screen is virtually indistinguishable from 720p for most viewers. But the processing speed difference is exponential. And that speed is exactly what a creator needs when they're, sitting on a bench, making a short on the fly, or maybe running rapid A/B tests on creative assets. It allows them to generate clips directly within the short's interface, often just by hitting that little sparkle button they've added. This tool is currently rolling out to creators in major markets: the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand.
Right, speed prioritized over pixel density makes complete sense in that short-form, rapid consumption environment. Okay, so beyond generating a new clip, YouTube announced a whole suite of tools focused purely on enhancing existing shorts creation. What are the major enhancements we should be aware of there?
They're focusing heavily on visual dynamism and also facilitating that remix culture that really defines shorts, doesn't it? For visual dynamism, creators can now use AI to apply unique artistic styles like pop art, watercolor, even origami to existing video footage. Just change the whole look. Even more simply, they can add motion to static images. A creator can take a still photo, input a prompt like "make her dance excitedly," and the AI will turn that static photo into an animated scene, maybe even a little dance video, all from a simple text prompt.
And what about the audio side of shorts? That's often driven by trending sounds and music, right?
Exactly. And that brings us to speech to song, which uses Google's Lyria 2 AI model. This is actually a brilliant remixing and potentially monetization tool. It takes spoken dialogue from a video, maybe someone talking about a product or giving advice, and transforms that spoken word into a catchy tune. The creator can set the mood, choosing options like chill, danceable, or fun. This not only facilitates new, unique remix opportunities within shorts, but also, and this is key, automatically credits the original creator, respecting the source material while encouraging derivative content.
It sounds like YouTube is really trying to streamline the entire creative pipeline, moving way beyond just clip generation into the heavy lifting of post-production. Let's talk about edit with AI. This sounds like potentially a massive time saver for traditional video editors, tackling the most tedious parts of the job.
Oh, it's a huge automation step. Edit with AI takes raw footage directly from the creator's camera roll or uploads. It selects the best moments, the segments with clear action, good lighting, useful dialogue, and stitches them together into a coherent first draft. And this isn't just a rough cut. The sources say it completes this draft with synchronized music, professional-looking transitions, and can even add an AI-generated voiceover in either English or Hindi. Think about it. If you're a new creator or even an established one tackling a new format, this gives you a starting point that's maybe 80% finished. You then only need to refine and personalize the remaining 20%. This dramatically lowers the barrier to entry for high-quality video production, makes it accessible to people who are maybe great on camera but terrible at editing.
And this suite of AI tools is being integrated right into the core management platform, YouTube Studio, which historically was mostly just an analytics dashboard, right? They seem to be shifting Studio's whole purpose.
Exactly. YouTube is transforming Studio from just analytics into a genuine creative partner. This includes the new conversational tool, Ask Studio. Ask Studio uses natural language processing to help creators gain much deeper channel insights, not just how many views did I get, but which specific video types generate the highest subscriber conversions among viewers aged 25-34 in Brazil. Much more granular.
Wow, yeah, that's a huge leap from simple data display to actual actionable creative intelligence.
It really is. And they're also implementing long-requested features like A/B testing for video titles and thumbnails, something enterprise channels have had access to for years, now democratized for everyone. And for global reach, they've enhanced their auto-dubbing with immersive dubbing. This includes advanced, apparently hyper-realistic lip syncing to make international translations feel far more authentic to the original creator.
That lip syncing feature. That's absolutely critical for growing audiences in markets where you don't speak the native language. It always felt a bit off before. What about protection for the creators themselves, especially regarding their image? Since VO3 can generate people, what tools are available to manage unauthorized deepfakes or likeness issues?
Yeah, good question. They are expanding their likeness detection tool. This is rolling out in open beta to all YouTube Partner Program creators. This tool scans the platform to detect and flag videos that have been made using AI, including VO3, presumably, that utilize their facial likeness without permission. This gives creators the power to manage unauthorized deepfakes, impersonations, or any misleading content that exploits their image. It helps them maintain control over their personal brand, which is crucial.
Okay, before we move into the great debate over quality versus quantity, let's circle back quickly. How does all this impact audio creators like podcasters and the bottom line, monetization?
Right. For podcast creators, who often start with long-form audio-only content, VO offers a potential fast track to video. It can generate customizable video backdrops, maybe animated visualizations based on the audio, or highlight clips from that audio file. This helps them easily create engaging video clips and shorts from full episodes without needing a whole dedicated video production setup. It's about repurposing efficiently. On the monetization side, VO speed is probably ideal for marketers running rapid A/B testing on ad creative. And furthermore, YouTube is making it easier for creators to run brand deals by adding product features like the ability to add brand links directly into shorts and using AI assistants to simplify the tagging of shopping items within videos, making the commerce side easier.
Okay, so we've spent significant time praising the speed, the fidelity, the integration of these tools. It all sounds pretty amazing, but this level of automation inevitably brings up a major, almost existential concern that is dominating the creative discussion right now: the fear of AI slop.
It's the essential philosophical and, frankly, economic debate right now, isn't it? Is this democratization of creation that empowers artists? Or is it the destruction of content quality that ultimately harms the entire platform? There are strong opinions on both sides.
We have to address the critical view directly because it's not just fear. It's based on observation of early AI tool adoption in other areas, right? What is the slop concern specifically, and what's the worst-case scenario predicted by critics?
So, the slop concern, fundamentally, argues that by making content creation nearly effortless and instantaneous, these new tools will inevitably incentivize volume over quality. The barrier to entry drops to practically zero, and suddenly everyone is capable of flooding the market with, well, stuff. Critics worry that this will destroy the YouTube ecosystem by filling the feed with low-effort, AI-generated content videos that lack that human spark, originality, or authenticity. One source we looked at characterized this risk as turning YouTube into a kind of TikTok wannabe, where shallow, derivative, quickly made videos dominate discovery. The core fear is that the human creator's unique effort, their personality, their perspective, is being taken out of the loop, leading to this massive increase in quantity but a complete collapse in perceived value and viewer trust.
That is a legitimate existential threat to the platform itself. I mean, if viewers stop trusting the quality of the recommendation feed, they stop clicking, and ultimately they stop watching. That's YouTube's entire business model at risk. How is YouTube, which, let's be clear, is a business built on watch time, addressing this risk? What's their official stance?
YouTube is acutely aware of the risk. They recognize that feeding users slop is, as they put it, terrible business. You kill the golden goose. CEO Neil Mohan has been really emphatic in his messaging that the power must belong to the creators, not the AI tool itself. The platform's strategic response seems to be that they want the creator firmly in the loop. The strategy isn't to replace the creator, it's to arm the most authentic and highest quality creators with tools to scale their unique vision more efficiently. They're essentially betting that volume alone will not beat authenticity in the long run, that viewers will still seek out human connection.
But in a world where speed is king, and literally everyone can generate 8-second audio-rich clips in minutes while sitting on their mobile phone, how do human creators maintain their value? What is the secret ingredient that resists AI replication?
This is where we return to that core concept of authenticity as currency. It keeps coming up. A successful, highly regarded creator, the source mentioned Mark Rober, who does complex science and engineering projects, points out that authenticity, which often stems from real-world expertise and background, is the historical currency of YouTube. People don't just watch a generic science video. They watch a science video because they trust his background as a former NASA engineer. They want that connection to the human behind the effort, the passion, the real-world testing. The market has always eventually proven that content that requires deep, complex, real-world effort is rewarded. AI, currently at least, cannot replicate genuine experience or expertise.
Ah, okay. So the value isn't necessarily in what the AI creates in isolation, but what the human brings to the prompt, to the curation, and to the final edit.
Exactly. The AI's real value, therefore, might be primarily in scaling an authentic creator. If you are a trusted teacher of science, AI allows you, as the source suggested, to cover more topics deeper. It removes the hours spent on tedious editing, transitions, maybe generating generic stock footage. This allows the creator to focus their limited time on the high-value stuff: research, concept development, performing the authentic, real-world experiments that the audience actually demands. The successful creator quote noted that YouTube is just following its established playbook. Create the tools, create the platform, and lo and behold, over time, the winners, emerge.
Hmm.
And the winners, historically, are always those who combine technical prowess with unique human insight and effort.
Does the type of content matter here, though? Will fiction, for instance, succumb to AI faster than, say, real-life documentary-style content?
Absolutely. Content differentiation seems key to predicting AI adoption rates. Content based on pure storytelling, abstract art, or fiction that will likely adopt AI tools very quickly, and audiences might be perfectly okay with that. I mean, if a generated science fiction short film looks stunning and tells a decent story, audiences will probably watch it, right? However, content based on real experiences and real humans, the sources gave that example of a collaboration where a celebrity visits a village in Kenya to document real-world change. That kind of material will maintain a necessary real spot. If a creator were to try and fake that kind of deeply human experiential content with AI, I think people would immediately revolt. Authenticity measured by real-world human effort and connection remains the ultimate differentiator, especially in high-value content.
Okay, that brings us nicely to our final major section. We've been very focused on VO3 and the generative pipeline creating new video from scratch. But for those scaled, authentic creators we just discussed, the battle is often fought in post-production efficiency, making the most of the footage they already shot. So let's shift the focus now to the practical AI tools that editors are already using today, right now, to dramatically improve existing footage and speed up their workflows. This section should have some immediate aha moments for you, the listener, if you're editing video.
Yeah, this is critical because AI is not just some futuristic idea for editors. It is already fundamentally changing professional editing suites. It's here now. AI in post is about efficiency. It's about salvaging unusable footage. And it's about achieving creative capabilities that were simply impossible or prohibitively time-consuming just 5 years ago.
Okay, let's start with a classic post-production challenge: achieving smooth, buttery slow motion. Historically, if you didn't shoot at a very high frame rate, like 120 feet or more, trying to slow down standard footage resulted in that awful, stuttering, unusable stagger.
Right. And AI has completely fixed this through a technique often called optical flow or sometimes magic masking, depending on the specific software. The AI doesn't just naively slow down the existing frames. It analyzes the motion vectors between frames and intelligently interprets or interpolates the new frames that should exist in between the actual frames you captured. This allows for truly smooth slow-mo, even taking standard 24 or 35p footage down to maybe 10% speed, which previously would have looked like a terrible slideshow. And this is readily available across major nonlinear editing systems, NLEs like Final Cut Pro, DaVinci Resolve, and Adobe Premiere Pro. It genuinely turns previously unusable footage into hyperreal cinematic shots.
Okay, another massive time saver, maybe the most tedious job in all of editing.
Oh.
Masking. Manually rotoscoping or masking a subject frame by frame. It's soul-crushing work.
Oh, absolutely. And smart masking has pretty much eliminated that pain for many common tasks. Tools like Magnetic Mask in Final Cut or Magic Mask in Resolve use AI tracking. They allow an editor to quickly select a subject, a person, a car, an object, often with just a single click or a quick rough outline. And the AI tracks that subject perfectly across the entire scene, even if they move behind other objects briefly and reappear. It's incredibly accurate now.
And what's the classic visual trick this enables instantly, the one everyone tries first?
Yeah, the first trick every editor learns is depth layering. Because the mask isolates the subject so cleanly, you can easily implement that classic technique of placing text or graphics behind the subject. You just duplicate the clip, apply the mask to the top layer, revealing the subject, and suddenly your title sequence appears to wrap around the person walking across the screen. It adds immediate production value with almost no effort. But beyond just text, smart masking is fantastic for selective color grading. Because the mask isolates the subject, you can completely change the background color grade. Maybe shifting the ambient lighting to cool blue tones, for example, while the subject remains perfectly natural, untouched, and properly lit from the original shot. It gives you precise control over mood and composition instantly.
Let's look at more advanced compositing like sky replacement. People spend hours, or used to, trying to find stock footage of a sky that perfectly matches their specific lighting and perspective.
Right, and this is a perfect example of how creators are now combining different AI tools in their workflow. You can use an external AI image generation model, the source mentioned one called Nano Banana, but there are others, to generate entirely new, realistic clouds that perfectly match your original scene's lighting and perspective, maybe based on just a single exported frame from your video. Then you combine this generated still image with the smart masking tool we just talked about to composite the new sky seamlessly into your footage, replacing the original dull sky.
And if you wanted those generated clouds to actually move dramatically, maybe like a time lapse, without having actually set up a time lapse camera for hours?
That's where the integration comes back full circle. You take that generated still image of a perfect sky and you feed it into a video generator, like VO3. You could prompt VO3. A panoramic sky with dramatic cumulus clouds, static camera view, slow westward drift motion. It generates maybe an 8-second clip of that sky moving. You then take that short, generated animated clip, drop it into your timeline behind your masked subject, maybe use the smooth, slow-motion tool to stretch it out and exaggerate the cloud movement, and suddenly you have a dramatically moving, completely realistic background that was just a static photo moments ago. This is how high-end creators are scaling their production value without having to hire a huge visual effects crew.
Okay, we absolutely must address audio fixes as well, because video creators, especially run-and-gun types, often have to record in less than ideal environments. Coffee shops, windy outdoors, rooms with terrible acoustics, background noise is a constant quality-killing battle.
And AI has nearly eradicated the necessity of perfect audio recording conditions in many cases.
Yeah.
Using tools like voice isolation or dialogue isolation, which are now standard features in most major NLEs, is incredible. The AI analyzes the audio frequency data and can cleanly identify and remove persistent, predictable background noise, think air conditioner hum, fan noise, maybe distant traffic rumble, while preserving the quality and integrity of the speaker's voice. It's usually a non-destructive process too, meaning you can tweak it. It allows you to salvage dialogue that would have previously required a complete reshoot or, at best, hours of manual spectral editing.
And one of the most futuristic, almost unsettling capabilities, fixing a factual mistake in a recorded interview after the shoot without bringing the speaker back in.
Yeah, that's voice cloning and correction. We are now correcting the script after the fact with their own voice. That's a concept that would have sounded like pure science fiction to an editor just 5 years ago. If a speaker makes a factual mistake in their A-roll footage, say they misspeak and mention 80 megapixel when they clearly meant 18 megapixel, you can potentially export a small, clean sample of their voice. Then use an AI voice cloning tool, ethically and with permission of course, to generate the corrected word or phrase 18 megapixel in their voice. You then carefully edit and drop the replacement audio clip right into the timeline. It eliminates the logistical nightmare and expensive reshoots for small errors, allowing for perfect audio continuity. It's powerful, but obviously needs to be used responsibly. Absolutely. Finally, let's talk about reducing the sheer volume of raw footage editors have to sift through. We all know how much time is wasted cutting out the ums, the pauses, the restarts, or redundant phrases from a long interview or talking head segment. That's the domain of these external AI editing tools, like Gling was mentioned as an example, which provide an essential bridge between raw footage and the final edit timeline. The editor feeds the raw A-roll footage into the tool, and the AI automatically analyzes the speech patterns, maybe emotion detection, and definitely the silent gaps. It then automatically cuts the bad takes, the redundant phrases, the long silences, and the false starts based on parameters you set. It then presents the editor with a clean, often text-based edit timeline showing the kept segments. The editor can review, tweak, and then export this cleaned-up sequence directly into their NLE of choice. Premiere, Final Cut, Resolve, whatever. This process can potentially reduce the time needed to get from hours of raw footage down to a coherent first draft from, say, a full day to maybe just an hour or so. It drastically accelerates the entire production pipeline, especially for dialogue-heavy, authentic content creators.
Wow. Okay, this deep dive has truly revealed a seismic shift underway in the creative landscape. VO3 delivers high-fidelity, audio-rich, 8-second clips, and that technology is now fueling YouTube's comprehensive plan to democratize the creation of shorts and even complex, long-form videos. The technical capabilities are frankly mind-blowing, from that native audio generation that saves hours of painful syncing to instant edit with AI drafts that can provide a nearly finished product.
Yeah, the synthesis for you, the listener, should be pretty clear. The real battle isn't whether AI is used. It is already ubiquitous and incredibly powerful. But how it is used. The platforms like YouTube are following their successful playbook, create the tools, lower the barrier, and the creators with the most authentic voices and the highest standards for quality will inevitably emerge and leverage those tools for scale. AI will likely scale the authentic creator, making them faster, more efficient, maybe more ambitious. But it cannot yet replace that genuine human spark, that unique perspective.
So, here's the provocative thought we want to leave you with today. We are now entering an era where AI-generated videos are, by design, clearly and permanently watermarked using technologies like Synthid. If the speed and quantity of AI-generated content increase exponentially, as seems likely, will consumers eventually begin to prioritize and value unwatermarked content as the ultimate premium indicator of genuine human-made authenticity? Could this create a new, highly valued tier of truly handcrafted video?
What does real even look like when almost any video can be convincingly cloned, generated, and animated? That question, I think, about the nature of authenticity and how we perceive it, that will define the next decade of media consumption and creation. Something to think about. Thank you for diving deep with us.